Okay, so I recently watched Blake Samson on GNBN build his own full suspension mountain bike, and before that I saw him build his own hardtail, and I got really inspired, but I was a bit anxious about the rear triangle because it seems really hard. But then this summer I got across and bought a broken frame for really cheap. So what I'm instead gonna do is take this rear triangle from this broken Kona operator frame. I'm gonna make my own front triangle from steel parts, and the steel I'm gonna be using is old BMX frames for the bottom bracket and the head tube, and then for the C tube as well. 30mm 4130 chromoly tubes for the down tube and the top tube, and then for gussets and everything else like the shock mount and things, I'm gonna be using this 2mm thick steel sheet, and I'm going to be making a jig out of this 40mm square tube. Okay, so here you can see the sketch of the frame. I'm going to attempt to have the down tube in two different pieces, so I can reuse the down tube and the C tube from the BMX frame. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna be using to make the jig. So I have some flat steel with holes in it, and then some 90°. And what I'm thinking is I'm gonna put these like this, and then connect them with this threaded rod so that I can extend it and shorten it. And then I'm gonna put these 90° to hold in the bottom bracket like this, like just press up on it. And then for the front I'm gonna be using an old fork, maybe not this fork but some old fork I find, and be connecting it down here so that I can change the head angle. So now the jig is done. The fork, I found this old Rockshop domain, found a perfect 20mm inner diameter tube that's sadly aluminium. So I had to do this kind of janky bolt and bend plate, but it works and it keeps it still. So that's how I'm gonna get the right head angle. And then here I put two plates like this, two bigger plates that I found, so I can move it forward and backwards. Then I put this 90°, and then I made this cut in here so I can actually make it wider or thinner for the bottom bracket. And then here to tighten in the bottom bracket with this bolt. Okay, so here's the plan. So I'm gonna cut it at an angle like that, because the other part of the down tube is gonna go up here. And then I'm gonna mark out and cut it here, because here's where the first bearings for the main pivot are gonna go. Okay, so here's what I came up with. I did this because I found out that this diameter and the other down tube actually fits quite nice together. So if I can notch this out to fit into this like so. So if I can get it to fit like this, I will get double the welding surface, as I can weld on here and on the inside, and then it will sit inside here, so that's gonna greatly improve the strength. I have cut the tube at this angle, the same angle as that one, and now they fit in like this and makes this shape. I'm gonna start working on the tubes for the bearings. Okay, so I ran into a bit of a problem. So if you can see here, these are the bolts that mount the rear triangle to the main triangle, the front triangle. And this one has a 15mm diameter, and this one has a 20mm diameter. And that actually works really nice, because there is a common size that has both the 15 and the 20mm inner diameter and the same outer diameter for the bearings, and that is the 6002 and the 6804 bearing. So here I have the 6002 that fits on that one, and then I have ordered those, they haven't come yet. And I thought that I was gonna be able to just use this tube to fit it, because the 6002 and the 6804 has a 32mm inner diameter, and this tube has a really nice 35mm outer diameter, and a material thickness of what I thought was 1.5, but as it turns out, the inner diameter is actually not 32 as I thought. It's actually like 32.5. So if I take this bearing, it's it doesn't fit, it doesn't press in. Okay, so here's the solution to my problems. So here we have the pipe that I want to use. So it has the inner diameter 32.5 millimeters. I want to put up the inner circumference. I'm going to get that pipe. And this one is 102.10 millimeters. And then my side diameter is 32. And the other pipe is 100.53 millimeters. And so I remove the difference. And from the difference in circumference, I'm going to side diameter. So that's going to be 102.1 minus 100.53, which is 157. And as I'm pressing I need to be a bit more. I need to be 1.7 millimeters on the side. And from the circumference, I'm going to sit in here. I'm pressing that. Okay, so now I cut the slit into this. It actually had a bit of tension in it, so it bursted open wider. I didn't cut it this wide. And then I went to the workshop and I welded it up. So I got the material from the inside, sanded it down, and then I was left with this, which I could press the bearings into, and they move freely. Okay, so now I've cut all the parts for the seat post, I guess you would call it. So I have the main pivot, connecting piece, something. The second pivot, the actual seat post. Okay, so now I have taped it all together, like it will be when I'm welding it. And I have the original front triangle as a reference. And everything here is pretty nice. All of these parts fit together really nicely. And now I'm just measuring out the top tube. So I'm gonna get to cutting. Okay, so my big camera died, so I'm just gonna do a quick little clip on my iPhone. So here's the top part. It fits really good. Actually surprised. Now I just need to measure out and cut this tube. And I will notch it out to fit the seat post. Okay, so here I have everything taped up, and I'm actually gonna put the rear triangle back on and see how everything looks when it's almost put together. So I will check back with you then. Here's the frame with the rear triangle on. I have tacked up all the pieces, and now I will fully weld the frame. Okay, so here I have the frame with the rear triangle attached, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fabricate this lower shock mount and like brace for this. So it's gonna go from here to over here, then up here, so I can extend the weld over here to make it stronger. So now I have cut it out. As you can see, here's my little cardboard template that I made. So when it fits in between here. and I just use some simple trigonometry. Alright, so now I have made two identical pieces of metal. So these are the shock mounts. I'm gonna put it into the frame and then make sure that it fits correctly in here and up here, and just check the fitment before I start welding. Okay, so now I have the panels right here. As you can see, now I just have to make it completely parallel to the rear triangle, because otherwise it will twist and snap off the choke. So that's not nice. How I'm gonna do that? I'm just gonna tack it into place, and then I'm gonna check if the choke moves freely, and if it does, I'm gonna call it a day and just fully weld it. So it's not a science, I'm just gonna wing it. So now I've tacked it up, and it actually, I thought it was going to be quite a hassle, but I'm guessing, like, what I was worried about was the lower shock mount. The shock moves a couple degrees, it moves, but I'm guessing it's not that big of a problem, and if you just put it almost straight, it just works. Now the lower shock mount is fully welded, and I added these little braces, you can see, and everything else in the frame is also fully welded, and now I just have to clean the welds up a bit, and then I can put it together. Okay, so now the frame is done, and now I'm gonna build it up. So I have gathered some parts, like two wheels, the fork and stem that I borrowed from this bike that I built, and here's some miscellaneous parts that I will need to put this together. So I'm gonna do that now, and then we'll come back to you when it's built. Okay, so now the bike is built up. There is something wrong with it. So I don't know if you can tell, if I back away a bit, what's wrong with the head tube. It is 65 degrees, and I wanted it to be a cool 63. That's the main issue I have. What I think I'm gonna do is I'm going to redo the head tube, but for now I'm gonna just be happy with this and do a bit of a suspension test, and then in another video I'm gonna completely redo the head tube, and then the bike will be done, and I will put a chain on it, and then I'm gonna go ride it in the woods.